Wabarakatuh, my dear friends, viewers of Ikra TV, welcome back to part 2 of Real Talk today. As you may have seen in the first part, or you will have seen in the first part, I'm talking to a very interesting young man who has dedicated his life and committed to giving a lot to not only to charity but also improving the lives of young Muslims in this country by establishing institutions which have got a Muslim ethos but also nurtures young people and gives them the tools to go out there into the world and become better citizens, highly educated citizens, making a difference in the world as well. And that's something that we don't really sometimes understand the concepts behind that, the challenges and the difficulties of doing something like that. A lot of people say we want a Muslim boys or girls school. It's easier said than done, because there's lots of regulations and rules that apply to education and how you educate children in this country, and quite rightly so. There's issues about attainment levels, progression in terms of how they progress through the developmental years, also about safeguarding and things like that. So obviously Yasser he's been talking about the work he's been doing with two particular schools, Paradise and Rida School in Dewsbury, which are quite well known, and some of the challenges that they faced and how they managed to achieve a level of success measured by Ofsted and others, the government agencies, to show that the work that they've been doing in that school is not to keep our children isolated and away from the curriculum, but to use that to try and enhance their lives. But I mean, turning back from, to something different, I mean, you would said working with leaders. I mean, one of the works that you do is leading on government projects, so helping the government do some work within communities, empowering people, raising attainment levels, raising aspirations, etc. Also in terms of student wealth, the concept of student loans, and some of the work you do with the ulama to try and support them to become self-sufficient, entrepreneur and independent. Now obviously this is an enormous amount of work. So how many people work with you around all these different initiatives that you've got?
So alhamdulillah, if we can just close the school chapter before we move on to the, so we discussed about the Rida Girls School. We talk about Rida Boys School. So alhamdulillah, 4 years back we started Rida Boys with 1 child. Today alhamdulillah we have approximately 70, and again with a waiting list. Wow. The reason why we say these numbers is we put a cap. We want quality within our education. So we have approximately 1 to 16 in a class. Mm-hmm. Every child should be a project. It's a holistic, rounded child which we want to develop, not just academic results. Academic results are a byproduct of the works which we do with the children. So alhamdulillah, one of the points which you mentioned is it's not an easy thing, it's quite difficult to do. I would think it's really easy. The hardest thing for us to do any project is to make the intention. Once a person makes an intention that I want to do this, everything else is easy. So to open up multiple schools, so again these are charitable projects. We have not taken a single penny for the last 15 years. We don't intend to take a single penny. We're here to give.
These are all self-funded, aren't they?
100%.
They're all self-funded.
Self-funded, but still we make an operational net of approximately £100,000 because we want to support our community. Not everyone can pay towards the required fees, so we need to support the local community.
So where do you get that deficit covered from?
Alhamdulillah, through generosity of individuals. Right. So we have donors, we have fundraising initiatives which we drive, but mainly it's through the generosity of a few individuals who will plug the gap, and fundraising. For the last 2-3 years we've not been able to do any fundraising, but finance is the least of our worries.
Right.
You see, when finance is something which stops the majority of the people doing good. The fear of what if, how will we pay? If we have a goal and if we've got an objective, then Allah provides opportunities.
Definitely.
Allah puts the right people in your way. Allah opens up opportunities. And alhamdulillah, moving on to the second part.
So the niyyat is the most important.
If the niyyat is that, Allah gives opportunities. Whilst opening and running these schools, it was always going to people. Please help us, convincing them of our vision, our goals, what we wanting to achieve. Then after a bit I thought to myself that why do we need to go to people? Why do we not create and have a business arm to what you're doing? So if you want to do good, you don't need to go to people. You need to go to yourself and put your hand in your own pocket and do good yourself. So this is where the second element came. But the schooling element, to close off the schooling, it is really, really easy. It's not difficult. When we started our schools, we didn't have a building, we didn't have a workforce, we didn't have any leaders. All we had, and we didn't have any children. We had an intention. With an intention, we have 140 in the girls' school. With an intention, we have 70 in the boys' school.
Mashallah.
With a waiting list. And if we see the parents, they have full conviction and full trust and belief in us. High-level intellectual, professionals, business people, people who are now moving their children from Queggs and Silks, where they're paying 14 to 15,000 pounds.
Those who don't know what Queggs and Silks is, they're some of the private schools in the surrounding areas, are supposed to be some of the best private schools in the neighbouring areas. Yeah.
So alhamdulillah, children are being taken out of these schools and put into our schools. So
these are where people are paying enormous amount of fees.
Yeah. So when we're talking about schooling, one of my mission is, and what we're wanting to do is 95% of the masjids, makatibs, institutions and buildings in the country are empty during the day. If every single community, every single masjid should be occupied, should be providing a service and benefiting their own community by empowerment.
Can I ask a question? I'm sure some people will be thinking this. In terms of the curriculum, right? I mean, in normal state schools, the curriculum is very broad. They go through a lot of different subjects. What do you do in your school to try and make sure that your children who come to your school get that broad perspective through the curriculum as well?
Okay, so with regards to the curriculum, we provide the same curriculum to the same depth.
Right.
But in addition to that, so how do we twist the curriculum? We Islamize the curriculum.
Right.
Islamization doesn't mean that we've got to teach them Islamic literature and Islamic books. Here, through Darwinism, so in science, if there's un-Islamic concepts, we say that as Muslims, this is what we believe, and we refute, okay, the wrong ideology. Through every subject, we bring the attention of the child, not single our passes within our school, when a child's attention is not linked to the Creator. So if we're studying the eye, look how great Allah is. Allah has given us the eye, and that's it. Within back to science, every and any lesson is linked back to Allah for even a second. So it's conditioning the mind. And the second element which we have is we've introduced life skills. We've introduced character building lessons. So in terms of personal development, and it's the environment. Islam pervades whatever we do, and it's because of the environment. Alhamdulillah, public speaking, confidence building, these are things which we do. So after each salah, when talim time is there, a child is told and asked, so they do research before, and they stand up, and for a minute they give a little talk on the topic which have been given. So from a very young age, we are instilling qualities which we are wanting, our professionals and our leaders of tomorrow to have.
I mean, one of the big issues around, for example, young people and mental health, for example, is, particularly young people at this moment in time, we know that there are huge challenges for young people, particularly with social media. And with social media has a huge influence on young people's minds. How do you navigate that in your educational structure?
So that's the pastoral department. So what we do is when a child comes into our organization, we have a vulnerability index in which we ask multiple questions. So approximately 20 questions which are asked each child. So questions such as that, do you have access to devices? How long do you spend in a day? Do you have a routine within your day? How much Quran do you pray on a day-to-day basis? So we have base point information for every single child. Every child, I don't like to use the word profiling, but it's profiled. So it aids and supports us to do individual,
so you have a map of
individual tailored work. So we have the personal development program. Then we've got the careers program as well. So we ask a child and base point as to what their fears are, what their strength is, what their enjoyments are, which college, do they have an aspiration, do they come from families who are professionals, what do they want to do, what line of work do they want to enter. but we condition their mind that we don't want to create professionals, doctors or engineers. We want to create people who will make a difference to humanity, make a difference and an impact and a positive impact. Because we have many people who are rich and many people who are professionals. But if that profession, if that skill set is not used and utilized to benefit mankind, because our basis comes back to the Quran.
Definitely,
and our teachings. Ukhrijat linnas, you've been taken out for the benefit of mankind. So from day zero, we condition the minds and we do tarbiyah, and we have a regular mentoring meeting. So they have mentors, and different teachers become different mentors, where they're sat and on a regular basis, 10 minutes is taken out. We talk to the child, we see where they are, we give them targets and goals, and we give them works. So these same works are taken home. So this is one of the works which we do.
I mean, obviously it's a partnership between you, the child, and the parents. How sort of supportive are the parents in some of the work that you're doing with your children? Because we know in state schools some of the parents are finding it very difficult, you know, in helping kids' homework, for example. So, and I'm sure that probably reflects across the board. So do you have similar challenges, and if you do, how have you navigated those?
So in terms of supportiveness, what I found is every parent wants to be supportive, but they don't know how to be supportive. Hence, we don't get the desired outcome. It moves us on to a system which I'm working on for the government. So there's two systems which I'm working. So mashallah, the line of inquiry and questioning is so pertinent and so in line with the works which we're doing, and it's super. But the works which I'm doing would give you an answer. I'm not a theoretical person. I don't believe in giving you textbook theoretical answers. I'll give you answers from my experience and my lifestyle. So one of the works which I'm working on, through Innovate UK. This is a business arm where they look at innovative ideas. So alhamdulillah, through the crisis of COVID, it had an impact in education. Everywhere in the world, people were affected, and especially the youngest ones were 2-year break or remote learning. So the government posed the problem, saying that we've got a clear crisis in education. Is there people who can come up with solutions? So alhamdulillah, 2,700 academics, 2,700 applications went in. Alhamdulillah, my application was successful. So alhamdulillah, within this application, I'm working towards a project. The government gave us £500,000 to provide a commercialized product. And alhamdulillah, 2 universities and their research departments are working under me. So Leeds, University of Leeds, Beckett Spark, University of Hertfordshire, and an artificial intelligence company. So alhamdulillah, I'm managing these people to create one of the solutions towards that. And one aspect is quite complex. I think I require an entire day for me to explain that project and all the different work which I'm doing, for which I'm not going to do that.
Would you be able to, in a nutshell, give some flavor of what it is that will help parents support their children?
So the flavor is, alhamdulillah, I have multiple tuition centers. So that's one of the works which I'm doing. But generally what I find is the people who can benefit are the people who are financially in a well-to-do situation. But what I'm wanting to do is there's a business arm and there's always a charitable arm to what I'm doing. So I thought to myself that how can I benefit every single child without paying that? So I want to flip learning and capture the tutoring. So I broke the entire curriculum from 0 till 16 into multiple objectives. So for example, mathematics has 600 objectives. So every single objective is pre-recorded and assigned to a objective and assigned to an app, the phone. So what we do is initially a vulnerability index. So it's a commercial product. So when a child comes into the school, whatever we're doing in Rida on a smaller scale, I want to do it on a larger scale. But on a larger scale, it needs to be sort of commercialized. So every single child goes through a vulnerability index, and it puts them into categories. So generally what people say is, why is a child not inclined towards education? We don't look at where the child and where we're slipping, but we look at the fall stage. we generally, I say that prevention is better than cure. We're curing a problem, whereas we've got to get to the root of the issue. So we've got to put preventative measures. A child which is in the classroom, who's going through conditions and difficulties at home, the last thing they're interested is education. Even though they're there in person, the mind is switched off.
Right.
So when we do works with the mind and the pastoral works initially, this is learning how to learn.
But the impact, I mean, we've seen this with in state schools as well, that the environment at home has a huge impact on the well-being of the child. You know, and you can't do, sometimes you can't do anything about that, because you know there might be challenges within the home itself, right, where the parents have got other issues to deal with. They may have financial issues to deal with. You know, so how would that how would you be able to somehow use that difficult situation to try and help the child improve or reach their potential as you see it as the professionals?
There's many factors which are which would affect the educational outcomes of the child. And I would love to sit here and say that I've got the answers to everything,
well,
and I can provide everything.
If you had, you'd be a billionaire by now.
It's not the case.
Yeah.
What we can do
But
is whatever is in our power and control we do. So the mentoring program which we do, so we try to take the child out of that environment, and we try to work on the difficulties and the challenges which the child is going through the mentoring scheme, through the profiling. Then the works take place. On the other hand, we do our baseline assessments where we know where every single child is, and we put the child on an individual learning journey.
Right.
Now within an educational sort of framework, the challenges are there, which is quite different. This is where the flipped learning comes. So this journey is given on an app to the family and to the child. So the child knows. So for example, in year 1, I've got an objective 3, which I don't know, which the school is not going to aid and support with. So they click on 3. And now a tutor will tutor them, which is pre-recorded, and will tutor the child in how to do that. Questions would be there. The child would put the questions in, and it tick off, and it'll give them the next learning journey. So that's the system in a very simplified manner, which I've explained. But alhamdulillah, the coming about of the system is not my intellect or my knowledge. The point which I'm wanting to make is initially whilst I was in schooling, I wanted to make a difference and benefit a class. Alhamdulillah, I was doing that. After a bit, I wanted to benefit more people. So I opened up a school or became a part of the school. Then I wanted to benefit more. So the primary and the secondary came and wanted to benefit more. And it's about intention and making dua to Allah, take the work of deen from me. And then what came about, because the intention needs to be big. Generally what I find is we have a lid and a ceiling to the intentions ourselves, the works which we do. And
is that because people lack confidence? I mean, obviously you're a person, I've known you for a long time. You have, mashallah, very good confidence, you know, and you believe in yourself. But there's a lot of people who don't have that confidence. Do you think that is one of the factors that keeps people sort of behind in some way?
Correct, 100%. It's confidence, and more than confidence, I'd say fear. Fear of failure.
Yeah.
What we've got to understand is a lot of people are very talented, but they fear that what if it doesn't work? What I generally say is, don't die dreaming. Whatever you have in terms of dreams, try to fulfill them, you know, in the halal sense. Okay, the positive dreams which you have, if you're not going to try, you're never going to know. And Allah, you know, does not hold you to account for the outcomes, but it's for the efforts. Whatever is in our control, which is to make the effort, then there's no such failure. If the outcome is not positive according to ourselves, then Allah will give you based on your intention.
As Allah says, "Manat tum karo," you do the hard work. Whether I bless you with it, I will decide. Yeah. You have to put in the hard work.
So, if there's 8 billion people, I want that how 8 billion people can benefit from our works. And alhamdulillah, Allah opens up opportunities. So this opportunity of systemized solution, which came, and the work which we are doing. And I've got another project as well, which I've won in terms of the well-being of the workforce and early education. So alhamdulillah, multiple projects which are coming our way.
So can I just start into your staff for a minute? I mean, obviously, all the good work you do in the two schools, depends on getting good quality staff, and also the fact that they must be Islamically quite aware and switched on and follow the practice of the Sunnah as well. Now, is that one of the challenges, finding people to do that? Because we know in every sphere there's a huge lack of people coming forward for jobs. In your case, educational jobs, there's an enormous deficit of good qualified teachers. So is that something that you face as a challenge as well?
Alhamdulillah, the way I look at things is in a very different manner.
But if you got 16 students in
yes.
a class, the number of staff you have must be phenomenal.
Yeah. So, alhamdulillah, staff workforce wise, collectively I employ over 200 people.
Right.
150 through the charitable works, approximately 100 through my own businesses. So workforce, generally we say it's a challenge, but in reality I look at it as an opportunity. I believe in a zero excuses culture. Too many a time the defeatist mentality is, I want to do it but we don't have the finances, I want to do it but we don't have the infrastructure, I want to do it but we don't have the people. We've got to provide solutions, and the solutions are always there. When we make the effort, it's like we're on a journey. I'm traveling in a train, and if I look at the tracks, it's as if that the tracks are coming together. The faster you go on the journey, the faster the tracks open up. But in reality, they don't open up. It's a deception of the mind and deception of the eye. It's exactly the same.
We can talk about this for infinitum, as I say. But obviously, the reality.
So we run our own CPD programs.
Right.
Here, we're not saying that the miracles are there.
Yeah.
We take within our interviewing process, what we need is we need a desire.
Out of time, so we have to be very quick on this. So go on.
So we need inspiration, and we need people who want to bring about change. The rest of it is our in-house CPD programs, which we operate and run.
CPD is?
So continuous professional development.
Okay, that's right.
So if we have strong and rigid continuous development, then alhamdulillah, this workforce will operate and work to the expectation which we have. Our expectation needs to be high. We need to believe that we can be the best, because alhamdulillah, Allah has given us Islam and the Sunnah.
Yes, definitely, and that is the primary sort of objectives of all of us. I hope what we've heard this evening with Yasser is inspiring you to do something positive in your community as well. I'm sorry we're running out of time as usual, and in the meantime, I just remind you again, news is coming through that Turkey has been hit again by another unfortunate earthquake. Please remember the people of Turkey and Syria in your du'as. Thank you, Yasser, for coming. Inshallah, I'll have you back very soon where we can carry on this conversation. In the meantime, may Allah protect you, be with you. Remember us in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.